A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger! With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again. Come on, Silver! Let's go, big fellow! Hi-yo, Silver, away!
Now, obviously, you guys have an idea of what I'm going to be talking about. If not from the description, then from my intro alone. I'm going to talk about the Lone Ranger, which, is a pretty popular culture icon, but I'm not sure if he's very known by many people today. I mean, I myself wouldn't even know about him if it wasn't for my grandmother, grandfather, and my own father. You see, when I was a young kid, my dad would always say these random phrases to me like, "Come on, Kemosabe," and I would just be like, "Oh, okay, that's just something that my dad says." And then, he would just say, "Hi-ho, Silver, away," if we'd pull out in the car, or some things just like that. Or he would just, make some references, and I wouldn't understand what they are. And it was very much the same with my grandfather. Now, I was one day just asking around, and I asked my grandma, why does my dad say that? And she was just telling me that, he used to watch The Lone Ranger as a kid, and that my granddad had even heard it when it was on the radio. So I was just like, The Lone Ranger, what is that? What even is that? I pretty much did some research, and I came across, that it's a really big, deal in pop culture, and especially with Americans. So being an Australian, my granddad, I'm not actually sure how he would have heard it on the radio, so I'm not exactly sure what my grandmother was referring to. But in about 2012, late 2012, I originally came across a massive archive of all the radio footage, like, the radio serials that they would play. And so the Lone Ranger radio serials, I delved in, and I was like, okay, well, let's find out what this is all about. So, just so you guys can get up to speed, the Lone Ranger was put on air by WXYZ radio station in Detroit. It was invented by George W. Trendle, or by Fran Stryker. They don't really know which one of them has, the rights to it, because both of them collaborated. So, it's either owned by one or the other, and unfortunately, since no records were kept of the radio serial at the time, nobody really knows for sure. Its first, aired episode that wasn't, a test on the radio station was either on January 30 or January 31 in 1933. So quite a while ago. I mean, they didn't even know that the Second World War was coming. And it continued to play right up until September 3rd, 1954. And it continued to play on the radio station after that, but that was when the last episode was produced. Any episodes filmed after that were done like reruns. Now, it was originally designed to be aimed at kids so that they would have something to listen to on the radio. But they quickly found out that most of their audience, or at least half of it, were adults that just enjoyed tuning into the serial. Now, you can imagine what it's kind of like. I would go back and I would listen to these and from the very start, and let me tell you guys, at first I was almost going to quit, because you get to episode 1 and it literally sounds like this. It's just muffled as all fuck. And that's just, I'd assume it would be sound degradation over time, but also the fact that, the radio quality wouldn't have been so great in 1933. So for a long, long time, I would just, binge these episodes, and I'm like, oh god, fuck, it's so hard to hear what's happening sometimes. And so I'll just wait for key sentences or things to come up. For example, people would just be like, And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I know the Lone Ranger was talking, just because whenever he comes in, he would speak with a much deeper voice than everyone else, and he would just be like, and so for a lot of the earlier episodes, that's pretty much what I remember. So you eventually get through those and you get some listenable quality. Once again, it's very, how can I put this? Like by today's standards, it's not that great. Um, if you try and listen to these things, you're going to have to, realize that you're going back in time, and time isn't very kind to all forms of technology. So, eventually they do get clearer, and you still have to strain and listen very carefully, but you'll get better quality. Um, Now, it was originally done by George L. Barrett in the test broadcasts, but George Seaton was the guy that did it from January 31 to May 9th in 1933, and so all that muffling that I remember is most likely him. And for the most part, to be honest, I could barely tell the difference between any of the Lone Rangers. So when I did some research to try and fill you guys in, I found out, like, at most I thought there were two different ones, but it turns out there was a whole lot of them. James Jewell, who was the series director, he came in and did an episode. There was a guy who was simply known as Jack Deeds, that's his alias, who came in and did an episode. Uh, a more prominent Lone Ranger was Earl Gracer, who was from May 16th, 1933 to April 7th, 1941. And that was because on April 8th he died in a car accident. And I remember this. Well, obviously, I fucking wasn't alive at the time, but I remember this mainly because there's a couple of episodes where Tonto is doing a whole majority of the talking, and so yeah, I was like, oh, that's strange, but now I know why. Uh, and then he was replaced by Brace Beamer, who from April 18th, 1941, did it right up until the end. Now, the Lone Ranger is like, he's iconic. Like, a lot of things I realize are now attributed to that in, like, movies and whatnot. But I also like the fact that, for the majority, he was pretty, like, the time, he was pretty progressive. Like, most of the villains that he fight aren't, like, stereotypes, they're just other Americans in the Wild West. And there's, like, of course there's one or two exceptions, but I actually, when I was going back, I was expecting it to be really racist. And I'm not saying anything against that, but that's just how it was at the time. And I was really happy to find out that there was not that, because, that really hurts a product in my eyes. Um, but some of the things that I really liked is, for the most part, uh, the Lone Ranger always he's like very articulated, and he's very well spoken. Like, he's not just some gunslinger. He seems to be smart, and it's like he has this vocabulary that just, it's very persuasive. So when he speaks, it's like you listen, and it's not just his radio voice, but it's like the way he speaks. He can bring his point across without sounding like some, gun-toting idiot. And I can respect that. And, I really love it, and it comes up a lot, but he's just like, people would just be like, what are you, like, they'll question his mask, and he's just like, I wear this mask for personal reasons, but I'm no outlaw. I just like, he says that a lot. So the Lone Ranger's origin is that he was one of these rangers, like these Texas Rangers, that were going after an outlaw, and unfortunately, they didn't make it. All of them were jumped and killed except for him. And he then, just decided to take on the mantle of a justice bringer. And he has, like, his horse, Silver, and I don't think they ever say his last name. I honestly, just like even thinking about it now, I know his name is like Reed, but I don't think they ever, if that's his last name or if that's his first name. I just know that he's been referred to as Reed. And apart from that, that's all the backstory for the Lone Ranger. He actually, except for once maybe, like he never refers to himself as the Lone Ranger. That's a complete like moniker given to him by the general public. But if people go up to him and like, "Hey, are you the Lone Ranger?" then he'll just sort of like acknowledge that. He'll be like, like, or like, some have been known to say that. And that's just like one of the things that I think is really cool. Tonto was played by a man named John Todd. And, for the most part, I was like, wow, John, he sounds like I was hoping that there wasn't going to prove me wrong and there wasn't going to be like multiple Tontos. But for the most part, it was just, John Todd, who was like replaced by a guy named Roland Parker a few times. And that was just like if he was sick or something like that. So for the most part, his entire career, he was Tonto. So we just had the one Tonto, and I thought that was really cool. Something that's weird with like Tonto is like they introduce him in an episode. Like it's pretty early on. I can't exactly remember when, but it was like there was like a gold mine. And like there were these two blokes that were just working and like mining in the gold mine, and they decide to just blow it up. And so Tonto gets caught in this explosion, and one of the blokes that was mining is just like, oh well, we should kill him. Anyway, before he can, do this, the Lone Ranger shows up, and he's just like, no, you have to take care of him. And I think, they look after him. I can't remember. But then one of those miners is like totally a jerk, and he's just like, I'm going to, get all this gold for myself by like framing my mining friend. And, sorry, I'm going to kill my mining friend, and I'm going to frame it on Tonto. And so, before you can do that, the Lone Ranger shows up and saves the day. He stops it from happening. And for no reason, after stopping that, it's like not even gratitude. It's like literally, I can't remember. I don't think it's even explained. But Tonto just starts like randomly following him after that. So, yeah, it's kind of strange. And from what I hear, it differs from the television series as well. But it took me like 3.5 years to get to like finishing all the radio serials. So I'm not sure when the next thing I'll do like on the Lone Ranger will come out. But the whole reason I was doing this is just because it was after finishing them all, I found myself actually looking forward to listening to the Lone Ranger's adventures, and I can really, apart from having the fucking William Tell overture stuck in my mind non-stop 24/7, I actually enjoyed the stories, and I viewed them as like older podcasts. And that's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to start a podcast. If you check my channel, I've got links to some of those. I've done them with friends, and I'm just going to do this shameless plug in the middle of this. But yeah, and that was one of the reasons, because I was like, wow, you can really entertain from just voice alone. And it's just a whole bunch of fun. Like, the Lone Ranger and his like never compromising morals, and you can tell whenever there's this bad guy, because he'll just be like, the Lone Ranger, eh? And he'll just like he'll be like stereotypically like bad. Like you can tell by the minute he starts talking that he's gonna be the bad guy that episode. Or it's just like just the other things like that are really time locked, like how most fights break out just from a dude going, "Are you calling me a liar?" And then like people like, "No, but this is the thing," and it's like, "Well, that sounds like you're calling me a liar," and then they'll just start like beating each other up. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that lying back then is such a serious deal that people get into fights over it. And like if you inferred that someone was a liar, you could likely get your like block knocked off. And it was just, I don't know, it was a really good trip down memory lane. And so I was just doing this small little episode because I recently finished listening to them, and I was just like, I just had the urge to talk about it, and I don't want to bore anyone else in my group, because I know that I'm weird in this respect. No one else would bloody go back and listening to like 1930s radio serials. And so I don't want to bother them that way. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to come and bother my fans, I guess. Wow, great me. But I just wanted to come talk about it. And so this is what I was going to do. Yeah, I hope you guys liked it. You definitely... Oh, actually, I was going to say definitely check it out. But to be honest, guys, listen at your own leisure. I mean, I'm not going to tell people to go and listen to something because I realize that it's not for everybody. But if you would like to take a, trip down yesteryear and just see what entertainment was back then in the like 30s and right up to 1954, then go ahead and just, marvel and try and imagine yourself as a young kid during that time sitting around the radio. And you know what? You might have some fun at the end of the day. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. If I do watch or listen to any more Lone Ranger stuff, then I will, post it on this channel because now I'm into the deep, rich lore of the Lone Ranger. And yeah, I'm not sure if this will be like something that I'll continue doing, but if it might even take years, but there will be some more stuff on the channel regarding the Lone Ranger. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening. I'll catch you guys later.